Hello there. How are you? I wanted to know what if some of the things that you or your hairstylist are doing today are setting you up for hair loss tomorrow? Wouldn't you want to know what you can do differently right now? Well, my special guest today is going to help us set us straight and set us up for success, whether you're a beauty professional or you're experiencing hair loss yourself. So, my name is Mickey Wright, and I want to welcome you to Beauty Superstars Talk, which is your backstage pass to experts in beauty. And I want to thank you for joining us on this journey that we're on to get to the root of hair loss. And I actually have to take time before we jump into the show just to acknowledge that the verdict of the police officer who murdered George Floyd has come in. Derek Chauvin is his name, and it was just announced that he was guilty on all three counts. So it is, for me, a bittersweet moment. And for anyone who doesn't know, this show was actually born out of the aftermath of the racial tensions in the country, the world, and the beauty industry after George Floyd's murder. And so for many months, during this broadcast, I would introduce the show and I would say George Floyd's name on purpose as I introduced it and share how I had the privilege to be on a couple of Zoom calls with other top Black beauty pros. And we met. I knew some, I didn't know others. We shared stories of what we do in the industry and incidents of any that range from marginalization to outright discrimination. None of that had feeling super inspired and with the conviction that these stories just had to be told. And so I expanded my platform and I've been interviewing the best and brightest Black beauty bosses every week for almost a year. So this is the perfect time to let you know that our topic for May, which is next month, will be on the diversity in beauty revisited. We will have not five actually, but 7 riveting, honest, emotional, and potentially raw interviews to take a look at our industry and see where we are, if we've made progress and where do we go from here. So I hope you'll mark Tuesdays in May, as well as a couple of Thursdays and a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern to actually join us. We want you to bring your comments, your observations, and even your questions. Part of the mission of this movement, which is Beauty Superstars Talk, is actually to help bring healing to our beloved beauty industry. So everyone is invited. So let's get back to our regularly scheduled show. I'd like to take time to thank our sponsor for this exciting series, which is the Black Beauty Expo. And the Black Beauty Expo is the hottest show for Black creative entrepreneurs in the hair, fashion, photography, modeling, and makeup industry. So their next show is August 1st in Atlanta, Georgia. So be sure to follow them and to keep up with the latest news on the show and to ask about special vendor packages. So in addition, I'm excited to announce that I'm now the Global Education Director for the Black Beauty Expo. So if you are interested in educating, please reach out to me. And oh boy, let's face it, having your own salon suite, it sounds sexy, right? But to run a successful and profitable one takes more than just talent. So unfortunately, that's something that's left out of most of our beauty school training. So I've got you covered. I've actually got a new salon suite success guide that you can actually download for free at beautysuperstars.com. It's called 5 Things to Know Before You Open Your Salon Suite. And it's perfect even if you already are open and already have a suite. One stylist said that it's made her look at her business with new eyes and revamp her business, project her income, and manage her time better. So don't miss out. Go ahead and download it right away. It's beautysuperstars.com. And my guest tonight has literally done it all. She's a cosmetologist, director of education for Sophisticate, Loreal. She worked in product development and some years ago became a trichologist and natural hair care specialist. So hair loss is affecting millions of women in the US. Many are sitting in her chair, and I can guarantee you that some of them are sitting in yours. So what are some of the things that clients are doing to bring on hair loss? And could it be that we as beauty pros are actually contributing to the problem? So what can we do to educate and intervene early enough to make a difference for our clients? So these hair loss talks, they're for consumers as well as beauty pros. And if you know someone who is experiencing hair loss, if you have a client that might be interested, if you know another beauty professional who may be interested in learning more about hair loss, please take a moment and just tag them right now and say, come on over. We're getting ready to dive in. So, yeah, Jackie's ready. So before we go and meet her, it's like I want to invite you to join us next week. We're going to continue this important conversation with another incredible expert. Kai Smith is actually a trichologist who actually had the personal experience of hair loss, and she has started an organization for the education of hair loss and trichologists professionals, and is also partnering with dermatologists to help them with their clients and to educate them. So you actually do not want to miss what she has to say about hair loss, and that's going to be next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you're not already, I invite you to follow me on Instagram at Mickey Wright, which is just 1K, MIKIWRIGHT. For this month's, we're doing hair loss tips, and we had a great one from last week's guest, Danielle McBride, on yesterday. So definitely check that out. And if you've missed any of the previous Beauty Superstars Talk interviews, you can catch them at beautysuperstars.com, where you can listen to the podcast. You can watch the videos there, or you can do them at YouTube, my YouTube channel, which is Mickey Wright. Again, MIKIWRIGHT. And the podcast you can catch on Apple, which is iTunes, Spotify, and any of the favorite places you have for listening to podcasts. And I definitely love it if you subscribe and leave your comments for us. So again, my name is Mickey Wright. I'm very glad that you're here. And if you are on, love to hear where you're from. So do us a favor and just kind of drop your name and where you're from in the comment section. And as I said earlier, it's like I'm grateful for the privilege every week I get to meet with amazing Black beauty bosses who are making their mark in the beauty industry. And this is more than a podcast. It is a movement to encourage Black excellence, entrepreneurship, to preserve our history, and as I said before, to bring healing to our industry. So if you are loving what we're doing here, it's like consider partnering with us. You could contribute $5 or any amount, and you can even sponsor a deserving student or a beauty pro with training to help them advance. So just visit beautysuperstars.com. You can look for a big red button that says partner with us. And I want you to know that you guys are truly in for a treat. So without further ado, I want to welcome my guest. I'm going to share with you her bio first, and then we're gonna dive in. So get ready. You might want to grab a pen or pencil because you might want to take some notes, or grab your tablet, whatever it is, but you don't want to let this good info pass you by. So Jacqueline Tarrant, she is recognized as a beauty expert in her role as consultant, columnist, certified trichologist, and founder of the Hair Trauma Center in downtown Chicago. The foundation of her pearls of wisdom stem from a family legacy of 3 generations of beauty professionals and her well-traveled career as an international platform artist. The former director of education and product development specialist worked at Loreal USA for 8 years and has a unique insight into hair care and product usage. Her expertise has been expressed monthly in national columns that reach millions through various publications, including 17, Cosmopolitan, Essence, The Wall Street Journal, and Huffington Post. Jacqueline's hair advice has been dispatched to women worldwide based on their questions sent to Sophisticate's Black Hair magazine over the last 7 years. Numerous style and beauty appearances nationwide on Good Morning America, NBC, CBS, and the Fox Network have kept her up close and personal with the latest hair care must-haves. During the week, you can find Jacqueline at her Michigan Avenue Hair Trauma Center, where clients keep her busy. It is there where she utilizes her knowledge of trichology and the cutting-edge technology of cool light laser as one of her most requested FDA-approved treatments to regrow hair. To give clients the style they crave, 5 years ago, the natural hair bar was created. Jacqueline's motto is "Every strand matters," and natural hair provides the best styling base for healthy hair. In an effort to share her expertise with a broader audience, Jacqueline poured her tips into the health and beauty publication, Healthy Hair Rehab Now. This insider's guide empowers the reader with the knowledge to identify the 3 steps for the best hair at any age. Healthy Hair Rehab Now takes an informative look at what causes hair loss and provides the reader with actionable solutions. And it is my honor and privilege to welcome you, Jacqueline. How are you?
Thank you. I am really well. I am so excited to be here sharing this platform with you. And let me also congratulate you on creating this platform to keep beauty professionals as well as consumers in tune with what's going on in the world of beauty.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's like,
Yes.
just full disclosure, it's like we have known each other for years.
Yes, we go all the way back.
Yeah, almost too many years to mention.
Yes, we won't tell.
Okay. But one of the reasons, I started this, this format is that, so many times it's like we know people, we've, interacted, we've had these, kind of quick relationships a lot of times.
Yes.
A lot of times we're at hair shows and, you're going one way, I'm going the other way. And so we don't really get to sit down and talk. We don't know each other's stories, and we don't know, like exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm super excited that you're here so we can kind of explore some of those things. And so, tell us, it's like, obviously I shared in your bio about your family background and lineage in the beauty industry, but tell us about that and how you got into it as a career, because,
yes. Well, as it relates to family, my great aunt was the first one with a salon, and my mother loved being around her when she was in her salon setting, and my mother just began picking up tips, and then gradually she also became a licensed cosmetologist and opened salons. And I literally grew up in a salon. So 3 generations of watching from the knee everything that was happening, listening to the conversations, really absorbing the energy and observing the transformations, come in ready for a new look, something new, or some type of reparative work, and leave out feeling phenomenal because, that relationship that women have with their hair is a very special one. And when it's in order, it's all good. But when it's out of order, it's not that good.
Okay.
So I really have always wanted, from as young as I can remember, I knew that I was going to be a cosmetologist. And as I continued, as soon as I was old enough, I began working in my mother's salon. I started actually just going to the store for people, getting them snacks and food while they were waiting for their hair to be done. And then gradually, as I was tall enough, I began draping the clients, getting them ready for shampooing. And then I became the shampoo girl. And then I literally worked through every process. But one thing my mother always did, she was known for her ability, Miss Jacqueline Tarrant. She was known for her ability to help women regrow their hair, even back in that day. So she would use very natural solutions. She had a book that you might be familiar with called Back to Eden. Mm-hmm. And in that book, there was so much holistic information. And that book was so valuable. She would not even allow us to take it from the shelf.
Right.
And unless we were being observed and put it back.
Okay.
And, so she would do things like if someone's hair was breaking off, she would do things like she would have dried sage, and she would make a sage tea that in the final rinse, she would pour over the hair, and it would strengthen the hair literally and stop the hair from breaking. So this was one of the things, just one of the many, many things that I remember that she did. So in my role, I was the one doing the preparation.
Right.
She would tell me what to do and how to do it and how to proceed. And as I grew into my cosmetology life, I also was always interested in that aspect of beauty. And so after, being a platform artist and an educator, of course, a platform artist, that's really, we feel that is the pinnacle of what we can do. That, and of course, doing celebrity hair. Those are the two top things that stylists really get excited about. And I have to say that I've been very, very fortunate to be able to really move and make my way throughout this industry. And it allowed me to never become bored. So I started off in the very basics of cosmetology and then owned salons, traveled the world, talking about hair, doing hair. It has been the most rewarding thing ever. Mind you, my mother really encouraged me to get a college education because she felt she didn't know how much influence maybe that she was having on me in my desire to do it, and that I might become bored of it and then not have another alternative in my life. But I followed her instruction or her suggestions, and I did go ahead, but I kept coming back into the salon in the evening. I have my little clients in the evening. I have my little clients on Saturday. And throughout my entire work life of everything I have done, I have always come back to hair. So it has just really been so rewarding. And I feel so blessed and so fortunate to understand what my purpose was. And a lot of times, because the chair is a sacred place, people come and they share very intimate details with you about their life, not just their hair. So you build these relationships through the years, and this whole comprehensive situation comes about. So it's more than just a hairstyle. It is everything that you can think about as it relates to a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you say, that relationship with the hair is so important. The relationship
Yes.
with the hairstylist is so important.
Very important, very important.
Yeah, and even the relationship with self, in terms of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, because your self-esteem is definitely tied to your appearance. And I always tell people your face is the picture, but your hair is the frame. So they really go hand in hand. And we come to envision ourselves a particular way, and we want to be seen a particular way. So it's very near and dear to everything that we're doing in the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you were, it sounds like extremely blessed to have, your role model and mom right there
Oh, yes,
to
yes.
learn, probably
Indeed.
way more than both of you know.
Yes, it becomes amazing when I think about how much I have been able to acquire and obtain in my life through beauty.
Right.
Because I've had so many different opportunities to approach it, not just from behind the chair, but through writing as a columnist, answering questions, doing Q&A, traveling, doing platform artistry, sharing my information and having teams where we would go out and do expos and really creating this buzz and about the industry, about hair care, about things that can make your hair situation better, about style, about look. It's just a package. It's just a total package that really is awesome. But then at one point, I felt that I was seeing so many women who were experiencing hair loss, and there just weren't that many solutions. When you think about hair loss and how hair loss has been presented to the world, we mostly think about, the most of the energy was focused towards men and hair loss.
Right.
A lot of the energy was not focused towards women and hair loss. So as around 2005 through 6 and 7, and I'm hearing so many women when we would go out and do expos and events and venues, people would want to take me to the side and show me a bald spot and ask me what did I think and what should they do. And at that time, I was not a certified trichologist, so I had some level of understanding that I could provide for them, but I knew that there had to be more. And that's when I began to seek out the understanding around trichology and what it was, the study of hair and scalp, understanding the causes of the issues, and understanding that it was far bigger and far more comprehensive, because the hair is fed directly from the blood circulation. So everything that's going on in that body is affecting that hair, because that same blood is flowing throughout our entire body. And so when there's an unbalanced situation or an interruption in your health and well-being, it is immediately or usually within a 3-month time frame, because it takes cells 90 days to rejuvenate. And within that 3-month time, there will be some experience of change in the hair based on things that are happening in the body. So what you're eating, you're drinking, side effects of medication, how you're caring for yourself, how you're managing your stress, everything you're coming in contact with, it can, even toxins, all these things are impacting your hair. So that makes the cosmetologist and the trichologist some of the most important people, because everything that is happening is making its way into the hair follicle, and it is nurturing or destroying the hair strand as a result. So a consultation became the biggest part of understanding what's going on. And I think we kind of miss out on the importance of a consultation. It's a conversation that people should feel comfortable with. But there's certain things that, as a cosmetologist and then now as a certified trichologist, that I'm looking for specifically, and through that conversation and the result that they are having in terms of their issue or problem, we can deduct pretty well what's going on. And that is really important, because that makes the cosmetologist that person that can really direct you when you may or may not have had great contacts or been having your physicals, because now, of course, we've been in COVID. Many of us have not been having our regular checkups and follow-ups, and there may be things going wrong. I've been seeing a lot of women who are having a lot of challenges because, number one, the stress from COVID, we've all been through a lot over the last year. And number two, if you've been impacted by COVID itself, or if you've been taking medication to alleviate the issues of your COVID, all three of those things are bringing about a lot more hair loss for women today. Okay. So, it becomes that thing that the cosmetologist can really have a conversation with the person that's in the chair to direct them to say, well, maybe you should do a follow-up. Maybe have you had your annual physical this year? make sure that you get that done. And in addition to any of your other challenges, make sure that you're getting your iron levels checked. You're getting your vitamin D levels checked. You're getting your thyroid checked, because those are 3 things that definitely impact and bring about quite a bit of hair loss for people when those are out of balance.
Okay, so walk us back through those again. So you said
Yes.
definitely the stress.
Definitely the stress.
We get
because
that.
the stress, which triggers the cortisol in the body, and it actually brings inflammation into the follicle. So when people are experiencing this excessive shed, many times it's triggered from high levels of stress, and stress triggers the hormone in the body, which is the cortisol, and that cortisol triggers inflammation in the body, which can also settle in the follicle and cause the hair to shed more excessively than the normal amount of shed that one should see. When we talk about iron levels, that's really, really important because, and especially to the African-American female community, because a lot of women deal with fibroid issues. And fibroid in particular causes excessive blood flow. And when that happens, your iron levels, which is your ferritin levels, they begin to become low because you're losing more iron from your body than you should. When these levels are out of balance and they are low, and some people you've suffer from anemia, this causes a diffuse shedding and hair loss. Diffuse meaning not a particular bald spot like you might see in alopecia areata, or the bald spots that people can get from what we call TE or telogen effluvium. It's different. It's their hair just begins to shed and fall. Mind you, we should be losing 50 to 100 to 150 strands per day based on how many strands you have per square inch. Just look at it like that. That will be your normal shed. But if you're seeing an excessive shed, that's when, and for a prolonged period of time, that's when you really want to follow up and see if there are some things going out of balance within the body that we need to follow up with the doctor. And that is something that if I can direct you, and I cannot tell you how many people that I have directed based on the response of their hair that turned out to be a major health issue, including brain tumor. So had it not been for them having the visit and us having the conversation, they would not have moved forward to go to the doctor to find these things. So that makes your role very, very important. The third thing that I mentioned was the vitamin D. Well, so in that, vitamin D3 becomes very important, and it typically becomes activated in the body when we're out in the sunlight. Well, of course, we've been on lockdown, and in the Midwest, people tend to have low vitamin D levels anyway, unless they work outside, because we don't get a lot of sun. When those vitamin D3 levels are low, and this was one of the areas that became very important in the study of COVID and recovery. When people had very low vitamin D levels, their recovery was delayed, or they had a more aggressive attack of COVID. So that vitamin D3, very important, and they're doing more and more study now to determine the different ways that the body can be impacted. But one of the ways is, again, a diffuse thinning and excessive shedding of the hair. And the other thing, the fourth thing, would be your thyroid levels. Thyroid is a hormone, but it does definitely impact the ability of the hair to have that excessive shed. So again, anytime the body gets out of balance, you're going to see some type of reaction in the hair. One of the other things that is really, really key when you look at what's going on with hair is your diet. What are we eating? How, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to get some prenatal vitamins and it's going to make my hair grow. Well, that's because during that time, your hair is growing when you are carrying a child, because the whole 9 months, your hair is in a growing stage. Hair has 3 phases, and you're in a growing phase the entire pregnancy. In addition to the fact that you're probably eating better, you're probably taking better care of yourself, you're probably getting some rest, and this does promote the hair growth. But if you're not eating right in your normal life, then you're going to see some deficiencies in the body, and you're going to have some issues with your hair. When you're not sleeping well, that's another thing. Because when the body shuts down at night during rest, that's when the hair is able to grow. That's when growth occurs. And I tell people, it's just like your computer. If you just boot your computer up or your phone and you never shut it down, it begins to run slow. It begins to be sluggish. It doesn't give you its full potential. So at night, we have to shut down. And when we're sleeping and we're resting, there is a time overnight that hair really goes into that growing aspect. So again, rest, very, very important.
Yeah. Wow. You really touched on some really key things. And it's like, I think one thing that I heard some years ago, just, trying to do more research about hair and hair loss and, all of the impacts is just how wise our bodies are. And
yes,
if
so
something
true.
going on, the body puts that blood flow to your vital organs.
So true. And in that, you make me think of another thing when we talk about eating. A lot of people are changing their diets and becoming vegetarian or vegan. And so oftentimes we're not paying attention to our protein intake. Protein is very key because hair is keratin, it's protein. Your skin, your nails, all your organs, they're all protein, the base of them. We have water in the body, but our vital organs are all protein, as well as the hair. So here's the thing. If you're not getting enough protein in your daily food intake, then the body knows how to disperse. Like you say, it's very wise, and it's going to disperse that protein to all the vital organs where it is necessary and required. So that would be your heart, your liver, your kidney, your spleen, your skin, which is the largest organ on the body, will receive the protein as well. And the average protein for an adult woman, the amount for daily intake should be around 30 grams per day. So if you're not taking in enough protein, then your body knows you do not need hair to live. How about that?
Exactly.
So the hair gets nada, none, because by the time it's dispersed throughout everything else in the body, the protein that the hair needs to thrive is not there. So what we're eating, and a lot of us, sometimes you're doing a lot of snacking, and that's usually carbs. When you're drinking, that's usually sugar, or alcohol, or whatever it is that you're doing. But that protein is very important. So even if you're vegetarian or vegan, there are many, many ways to get protein through beans and through spinach, and there's through eggs, if you're vegetarian and not vegan per se. But even if you're vegan, now they have plant-based foods that resemble or mimic meat to give you that satisfaction to your taste buds, but they are very rich in protein. So there are many plants that provide you with enough protein to nurture the body. The other thing is hydration. Are you hydrating yourself properly? Because we need that water to carry things from the top to the bottom and back again. So when it comes to how much water you should be drinking, and I'll come across a lot of people, I don't like water, I don't drink water. What about flavored water? What about tea? You know, it's like we're looking for so many alternatives, but we need water in our bodies. And if you want to know what is best for you, take your body weight, divide that number in half, and that's the number of ounces you should be drinking every day to properly hydrate your body. Because remember, nothing grows on the desert. Nothing grows in the desert.
Okay.
And if you are dehydrated, it's a desert.
Okay.
Okay.
And somebody just went, woo! How many ounces?
But your brain even functions better when you are hydrated. Honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've definitely told us some really, really key things as far as what our body needs and what the hair needs, and you know, and how it all kind of works together and ties
together. Yes, it's just all intermingled. It's so important. Yes, for sure.
So tell us what are you seeing in your practice? You know, it's like you've got a practice on Michigan Avenue in Chicago.
Exactly.
And you know, what are people coming in with, you know, in addition to COVID and the stress and all that?
Yes. Well, the number one cause of hair loss is genetic predisposition, female pattern thinning or balding. There's male pattern balding and female pattern balding. They're not a lot different. And this usually occurs because it always occurs because an individual has picked up their DNA from parents. And I tell people, you know, look through your family. Is there a history of thinning or hair loss? And sometimes a person can carry a trait over and not actually be impacted themselves. So kind of look through the lines, because we get our DNA from 6 people: our mother, our father, each of their mothers, and each of their fathers. So that's 6 people that you're getting your DNA from. And that predisposition for hair loss, that's the number one cause of hair loss in the world, is that predisposition. So I see that a lot. But with women, I see often multiple causes of they may have at least 2, up sometimes even 3 different types of hair loss. So there's the genetic hair loss, which typically happens in the top circle, in the crown of the head, in the top area.
Okay.
And so that's a very specific pattern. Then I see a lot of women who are dealing with traction alopecia. And traction alopecia becomes really frustrating because that comes out of, I will say, some of the practices that we put in place ourselves. How are we styling our hair? The tightness, the traction, the pulling. So ponytails, very tight. Typically when people are wearing a high knot ponytail, maybe they're adding some hair on and they're sliding pins in. Often I'll see quite a bit of thinning or even balding in that top area, but also around the edges where the hair is being pulled up.
What traction alopecia, if you can tell us kind of what that is and what we look for.
Traction alopecia is hair loss typically around the outer perimeter, or what we would say our edges, or any portion of the head where hair has been pulled tight, or it's been pulled tight and it has the weight of extensions added onto it. So then you have a double culprit.
Okay.
So traction alopecia is what causes that hairline to be lost. And that typically happens from the tension of the tightness of braiding, whether it's weaves, braids themselves, and then the weight of the hair or the cap or the sewn in hair on that area that's being pulled. So it literally puts trauma in the actual follicle from the tightness, and the tightness is there for prolonged periods of time. So typically, if a person is going to get their hair braided, they'll probably keep the braids in a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. When people are getting weaves, the hair is braided down in whatever pattern or fashion that it's braided in, and maybe a net is added or tracks are added to the braids. Either way, you have the tightness and then you have the weight of what's attached. And this is done typically for the duration of anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months for on average. So in that time, the tightness is there in our minds to make it last a long time.
Right.
But the problem is with this tension and this traction and the weight, it is too much on the follicle. And the follicle is experiencing trauma as a result of these unnatural things that we've done to the hair. One thing that will typically happen when hair is braided too tight, you may see small bumps begin to appear around the area. So you may see small bumps around the hairline. You'll see this even in children when their hair is braided too tight and they keep scratching the bumps because literally infection is in the follicle and it's trying to push its way up, and that's what makes the bumped area. When that's happening, we're sending a signal to the follicle to say, I don't want hair here. I'm trying to pull it out. And eventually, it listens to you.
Right.
And when it's time for that strand to shed, it may not come back. So slowly but surely, you start to see the space, more space and less hair. Sometimes the hair is so tight, it just comes out from the root. And when you take your braids down, you see that that area is immediately thinner, or there's a bald spot, a small little places throughout the scalp. The hairline takes the worst beating because it naturally has less blood flow than the rest of the scalp. So you're starting off at a disadvantage because there's less blood flow and stimulation in the hairline. And the hairline usually goes about 1.5 inches from where the edge of the hairline ends. And this is where you will see the greatest impact from these types of styles or from traction alopecia. Now, traction alopecia can happen anywhere on the head, but we notice it more because your hairline is right at your face line. And as you begin to see that hairline go back, gradually, those areas become very smooth. And even scar tissue builds in those areas, and that can become permanent, whereas the hair does not grow back. So it's very important for, number one, you not to get it in too tight from the beginning. Number two, if you've had this experience, stay away from it and allow that hair to regrow. Go to someone that's a professional to help you to stimulate the process of hair regrowth, and walk away. Walk away now while you still have some hair. because the repeating of this type of tension, the hair just becomes finer and thinner. Every time it comes back, it's coming back weaker until eventually it doesn't come back. And that is the really, I guess, unforgiving part of beauty, in that we're under the impression that we're giving our hair a rest or we're tucking it away. So we giving it a name. We call them protective styles.
Right.
And protective styles were, the idea behind them was to tuck your ends away, so you're not breaking your hair from over manipulation. But instead of preserving the ends, we started destroying the roots, which is even worse, because you can grow some more length, but sometimes you cannot get those damaged follicles to reproduce hair. They go into a resting phase and they stay there. The follicle becomes dormant. Scar tissue can build in that area, so this hair strand cannot penetrate and grow through again. So there are many different things that can happen as a result of these types of styles. And that is one of the most prevalent hair loss issue that I see in my chair every day. Okay. There's not a day that goes by that someone isn't in my chair with some type of traction alopecia almost. Okay. So to get the word out and help people to understand that this can happen to you, and that it begins happening even when we start with our young children braiding their hair so tight. So by the time that you're a young adult and now you're braiding, but for another purpose, maybe now you're doing weaves, maybe now you're doing different kinds of braided styles. These issues continue to follow you, and your hair gradually becomes thinner and thinner and thinner. So that's where the challenge becomes there. Another thing that I'm seeing a lot of now is scalp abuse, is what I call it, or neglect. So when we are wearing protective styles, I'm going to go back to protective styles again. What became very, very popular over the last couple of years were crochet styles. So that's when people are using the synthetic hair, the latch hook, they're, braiding the hair down, they're sliding the synthetic hair through. It's coming in all different kinds of colors and curl patterns and braid patterns and things like that. So people are really excited to do that. And once they get it in, that hair cannot be shampooed in the same way that your own natural hair can be shampooed. So the idea of shampooing your hair is not just for your hair, it's for your scalp as well. So when that hygiene is neglected, we naturally have good and bad bacteria on our scalps. That's natural. That's the way it's supposed to be. But when we neglect our scalp and we are not cleaning it and we're not using good proper hygiene on the scalp, that bad bacteria begins to increase and multiply. And in that process, several things begin to happen. You begin to, number one, the first thing, as my client says, when your scalp is talking to your nose, that's not a good thing. Because the residue builds up. If you're getting a crochet and you're keeping it in for 6 weeks and you have not shampooed your hair for 6 whole entire weeks or 2 months or beyond, that's not good. This bacteria begins to build up and we get a condition that's called dermatitis. So often we see people doing this. Yep, everybody's seen that. So that means under your crochet, under your weave, whatever it is, that sensation that you're feeling, that itchiness, that can be the beginnings, the midsection, or a full-blown case of dermatitis. And that comes from not properly cleansing the scalp. And even when you have a weave, you really are not cleansing the scalp thoroughly. And a lot of the curlier looks, people are wetting them every day to get the curls to come back in to look fresh.
Right.
And underneath that, your own hair and your own scalp never completely dries down. So you get almost like mildew on the scalp, and that bacteria is growing and growing and growing. And that can lead to hair loss as well. So now not only do you have a condition on your scalp, which does require quite a bit of work, it doesn't go away right away.
Dermatitis.
Dermatitis. And there are several different kinds of dermatitis that you can get. You also may begin to experience some hair loss as a result of the scalp being infected. So these are right now, the whole dermatitis, the whole scalp issues, I'm seeing quite a bit of that, and hair loss as a result, that's coming as a result of the scalp situation. I'm seeing quite a bit of that. So treating all these different things that we just are not aware of, these are things that we can prevent.
Right.
Genetics, you can't control. But how tight your hair is braided, or how long you leave it in, or how you care for your scalp underneath, go back to your beauty professional and if you're going to wear these styles, I'm not against them. When they're done properly, it's all good. The hair can grow, the scalp can thrive. I've seen people, and I've had clients who have had very great success wearing these same styles. What I'm talking about is the neglect when you're wearing them, because you get comfortable in the fact that you don't have to do anything. And so you don't do anything, but you don't understand how much of an issue that this can create, that can be recurring, and it can really be very problematic for you and for a long period of time.
Okay, so talk to us, because I know some people are going to hairstylists and are coming in with some of these situations. And what do we need to know as hair care professionals? It's like whether we're hairstylists, barbers, anything in that range. What are the things that we don't know that we really need to know?
So when you have a client, especially if it's a regular, we have our regular clients. We have our salon traditionalists that come to the salon every other week, or some come weekly, or some come once a month, or once every 3 weeks. You should be examining their scalp to see if the scalp looks healthy. If you see bumping, if you see more space between the partings, if you see some irregularities in the scalp, bring it to the client's attention. You may not be able to address it because you may not be certain of what it is, but bring it to the client's attention so that if they want to pursue it with a dermatologist, someone who can treat their scalp, that's your best bet.
Okay.
When you start to see areas thinning, bring it to your client's attention. I'm noticing that your hair is getting a little sparse in the top, or I'm noticing that something is going on around your edges. Maybe we should take a break from the weaves for a while. Let's just treat your hair. And there should be a time in between weave applications. That's very crucial.
Talk to us.
Because I know that we become dependent upon our look. We get used to having all of the long, flowing, beautiful hair. but you have to also treat and take care of your own hair underneath. So in between weaves, there really should be at least 3 to 4 weeks without that tension, that tightness, where your scalp can breathe, where the stylist can treat the hair, where you can treat with deep conditioning with protein and moisture and treat the hair shaft, where you're cleansing the scalp, doing purifying shampoos to exfoliate and cleanse the scalp thoroughly, where you're getting buildup off of the hair. So this becomes a great time to make sure you're keeping your own hair healthy, because at the end of it all, you're still going to be dealing with your own hair situation. And you may come to a time when you don't want to wear those types of styles anymore, where you really want to wear your own hair.
Right.
I mean, I've come in contact over the years with people that have been in weaves without a break for 10 and 15 years. And when they finally come out of all of that, they have scalp issues, they have some form of dermatitis, they have hair loss issues, they have traction alopecia around the frontal edge. Maybe their genetic predisposition is really showing up now. All of these different things are happening simultaneously. And now we're trying to treat a multitude of different things. And by now you're older, your estrogen levels are declining, and your hair is not as resilient as it once was. What people don't often realize is there's aging hair is a thing. It's a real thing, because as a woman's estrogen level decline, and from 30, every 10 years, her estrogen levels are taking a dip. Her hair is responding in the same way, because estrogen is a main driver of all of your beauty, including your hair growth. So your hair isn't growing as fast as it used to. It doesn't snap back from some of those little hiccups that we can have with styling and hair color and some of the different things we tend to do to our hair. And so now, all these years later, all of the different acts and different things that we've done, we now see, and we don't want any of those things anymore. Now we just want to be more natural. We're changing our lifestyle. We want to embrace ourselves, but we don't have much to embrace.
Okay. Wow.
So as a hairstylist, help people early on, have those conversations. When you see something, bring it to their attention. A lot of this information is not hidden. If you, as a cosmetologist, want to learn more and know more about these different things that I'm talking about, there are classes, there's just information, just put in your search engine a particular topic that you want to learn more about. And your simple reading will help you to know so much more. And you share that information with your clients when they're in the chair. And they will regard you with so much more respect, because you're helping them through the process. You're sometimes saving them from themselves. And I understand sometimes some of your top dollar services that you provide are these very services. But you have to learn that there's a way to do them in a healthy way, so that at the end of it, no one is resenting you for continuing to do these same services, because I hear a lot of that. A lot of people, and many of the things that they have had done to them, they did not do it to themselves. It was done in a salon setting by a beauty professional.
Right.
And it's really important for us to, be like the doctor. First, do no harm. If this is going to harm a person, their beauty experience, then have that conversation. It's worth doing. I absolutely tell you, it's worth doing.
Yeah, you mentioned the consultation and how important that is
Yes.
earlier. And is it something that we should be talking to our clients about during that consultation before we even start the process
Yes,
of doing a weave service, doing a braid
for
service,
sure.
that okay, we're going to put this in, and you should be back in X number of weeks or months.
Correct.
And after we do it twice, then it's like we'll take a break for this period of time.
I totally, yes, you nailed it. It's really important to manage your clients' expectations because they're looking to you for guidance. They really, really are. You're going to have those people that are kind of going to disappear into the wilderness and you won't see them again, or maybe you see them again a long time from now. But as long as you're doing your part, then you have nothing to be concerned about. My thing is, clients come to you and they say, can I get this? Can you get it? Can it be done? It can be done. Should it be done? No.
Okay.
You're just coming out of this traction alopecia situation. You clearly have genetic thinning in your crown area and it's very weak. To put that type of stress on the hair right now or at all, it's not a good idea because the body has muscle memory. Just like you have muscle memory, the scalp has memory. And as soon as you expose that area to that same condition, it will begin responding in the same way. That hair that you took so much time to grow back and spent your money to grow it back, it's going to fall out again. I promise you.
Wow.
So having that consultation with a person or with the client, whether it's a new client or sometimes your faithful clients, sometimes we get really comfortable with them and we just overlook some of the conversations that we should be having. Right. But sometimes you have to be the one to say no. I have to say no quite a bit. And I say, I know you want to slap me right now.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you no. And I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you no. And they're like, oh, I'm so disappointed. But okay. Thank you for, sharing with me that this is not something that I can get, or that I should not get it at this time, or that we should treat the hair and repair the scalp before we move into this direction. We should prep it, make it as strong as possible before we take the next step. Right. It's really, really valuable. It's really valuable. That person will respect you even more because you had their best interest at heart.
Right.
And I know that a lot of times the schools are not teaching any of this. And that's where you have to be a self-starter. You have to seek the information. You have to mentor yourself, be a mentee with someone who's maybe doing this type of work or who can advise you. And I will tell you the most wonderful thing that I've experienced here in Chicago is early on when we were still doing shows and, having our classes and things like that. I did continuing education about trichology to help the average stylist understand what we're talking about now.
Right.
And many of them took an interest in it to take it further, but some, it wasn't their lane. But what they all that still do, they send those people to me. Right. So we become partners in that situation. And then I do the same for those people who need to have a literal prescription, an antibiotic, an anti-inflammatory shampoo, or a topical that's anti-inflammatory. Sometimes there are even topicals that are steroids that can stimulate the hair to regrow. So I have a partnership with dermatologists that I forward people onto. And these are not just any dermatologists. These are dermatologists with a specialty in hair loss. And I have 3 totally awesome African American women here in Chicago that are doing incredible work with African American women, helping them to understand some of the conditions, not just genetic, not just traction alopecia, but CCCA, and I think you had that mentioned in one of your other programs, is huge among African American women, and it can manifest itself in different ways. Many of these things we can manage as trichologists, and a stylist can manage, knowing what kind of services to do and not to do. But these people need prescriptions to help them with real anti-inflammatory solutions, shampoos, topicals, sometimes antibiotics, to reduce that inflammation in the follicle. Because most of the hair loss is coming out of inflammation, no matter how it's being caused. So we can get inflammation from the traction and the tightness of the weaves or the braids. But CCCA, which is a type of alopecia, also there's a lot of inflammation in the follicle then as well. So there's many conditions that start with that inflammation in the follicle. And where there's inflammation, there will not be hair very much longer. So it's really important to help people to understand it, identify it, treat it, because you're going to need anti-inflammatory, you're going to need antifungal, you're going to need stimulation. All these are the things that are key to helping a person through a hair loss situation. And sometimes, like I always say, I stay in my lane. If it's not my lane, my best advice is to advise you of the person to go to. And you're only going to see the dermatologist once every 3 to 6 months. But you're probably going to see me every couple of weeks. And so while you're bringing in your shampoos and your topicals, and I'm making sure that you're staying with those things along with the things that I do, which cool light laser, which we had mentioned earlier, becomes very essential in the process. I like to take a layered effect. So when I talk about anti-inflammatory, that's going to be a topical that's going to penetrate the scalp. Anti-inflammatory can also be antibiotic that you're taking to reduce the infection, which then reduces the inflammation. Your antifungals are going to remove all of the bacteria from the scalp, because this also creates and drives the process of inflammation. So all of these things are a layered effect. You might have an oral medication, you might have a topical that you use regularly. The cool light laser is an amazing technology that stimulates the hair, it stimulates the blood circulation and promotes the best environment for hair to grow. But it's a part of a program that clients are using and they get results.
Okay. So a couple things. One, backtrack and tell us what exactly is CCCA, or what does that stand for? We did talk about it a little bit, but for anybody who didn't.
Yes. It is, and I always mess up the pronunciation of the particular words in it's centrifugal. Girl, don't. Okay, but
we'll post it in the
it
notes.
is a type of alopecia that, through no fault of your own, individuals can have. And it's not just African American women that have it, but we see it a lot in African American women. And it may start with an area that becomes thinner. The scalp becomes maybe inflamed. So there's inflammation there, and that might mean itchiness. That might mean tenderness to the scalp.
Okay.
So sometimes people that have this particular type of condition, even tenderness to the touch during certain flare-ups, it can occur. They may have itchiness that is almost unbearable. And of course, as you're scratching those areas, you're irritating the scalp even further, and it can drive the hair loss because you're literally pulling the hair out. It has affected many women, and it can occur anywhere over the scalp. But I've seen quite a few people where it seems to start right behind the ear, which is an odd location.
Okay.
But that area of space behind the ear that goes to the forward, around to the front of the hairline and down to the back of the hairline. And it may be a space, it may start smaller, but it's progressive, and it gets, it may then show up in other areas of the scalp.
Okay.
But hair loss is definitely a part of the process. Sometimes bumping, sometimes the bumping is tender. And any of these symptoms would definitely be something for you to see a professional about. And that for that one, I help a lot of my clients to manage it, but I want them to go to the dermatologist to get, number one, for sure, diagnosis.
Yes.
That way, everything is covered under their healthcare policies, which is very important because that's a long-term treatment plan. That is not something that that is not like a dermatitis. You can clear dermatitis up. But most of the types of alopecia are recurring and they're progressive.
Okay.
So you want to be able to get prescriptive care, a prescription that you can use and manage the inflammation, manage the agitation, keep it at a minimum. When it's managed, then the hair loss stops. So that's what's really important, getting out ahead of it so you are not trapped in a situation where it feels like it got a little better. So you got a little relief for a couple of weeks, but then in a couple of weeks, it flares up again. Right. Or it just comes out of the blue and you can't tie it to any kind of hair product or any type of experience. It just occurs. All of the symptoms that I've mentioned just now, they all tie in with CCCA. Now, everyone is not affected in the same way with it. I've seen some people who never have scalp irritation, some people who never have the itching, they just have the hair loss. Some people who get serious bumping on the scalp and it literally changes the texture of their scalp. So over the years, now I can look back and know that I saw many women with that condition, but because they were not going to a dermatologist, those numbers never get calculated. They never get added to that number. So the research was not being done. So as more people get diagnosed, it becomes a more important challenge for the derm community to look for solutions. Right. So as a result, my shiro, Dr. Victoria Barbosa, she is really on the cutting edge of, there's a society that they do meetings all around the country, really all around the world, because it's a global issue. And they seek out solutions. And through all these different dermatologists that are treating the many different strains, they come up with protocols that are very helpful for women. And I've been asked to speak at some of the different events and venues, and have been able to, what I love is that they are looking for our input. So with that input, that allows us to get to solutions even quicker.
Right.
So, you know, anyone that's a cosmetologist in your city, find out who's doing the work. You know, what dermatologist is there. That I particularly love African American women because they understand our styling practices, and they understand the things that we will and won't do. So to give a woman a prescriptive shampoo and say, now use this every day, that's probably not going to happen. And she may not even go back.
Right.
But it's important for her to have consistency in her treatment plan, because the first thing I say to people, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. The number 1 thing, you've got to be patient. The number 2 thing, you must be consistent. If we come up with some type of treatment plan, or the doctor and we're working on the treatment plan, we see you when we see you. But all those other days, you're at home. So it's going to be up to you to be consistent with your regimen. And number 3, stay with your plan. Don't get comfortable because the plan is working and you feel like, oh, well, maybe I don't have to do it anymore. And then you get another flare up. And typically each flare up tends to be more advanced than the one before. So managing these types of things is super, super important. And having, and it's very important to have a stylist that is compassionate and sensitive to the needs of people who have these types of conditions.
Right.
Because there are certain styles that just are not acceptable. And there's certain products that you should not use that will cause more agitation and irritation. There are certain recommendations that you're constantly making, because you're the one that the client is going to talk to about styling choices.
Right.
And knowing which way to direct her or to guide her, or to what looks to give her, so she still feels happy with herself, but she's still continuing to stay in protocol, and she won't have flare-ups, because that's a health issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a question I wanted to throw up here, and then I want to hear more about your the treatment, the laser light treatment, the low light.
Yes.
I don't want to say it incorrectly.
Cool light laser.
Cool light laser. Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, and then we'll start to wrap up everything. But thank you, everybody. It's like I'm seeing these comments and everything come in, and I'm so excited that you guys are excited and sharing, you know, things that you've experienced and have seen. So we so appreciate it. So I just want to bring up, I think it's Amina, I Am My Brand, scarring alopecia. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes.
And I don't know if that's in your lane or not, but
scarring alopecia is it is a condition that it's not really understood what creates the process. Like, we know traction alopecia is caused from tight styles and, you know, things of that nature. We know that genetic predisposition is a genetic trait, and that it comes as a result of certain things in your predisposition. Scarring alopecia, CCCCA, things like that, they can be the doctors, even autoimmune, even alopecia areata, we don't really understand what causes it. We know what happens, that the body turns on itself like an autoimmune response.
Right.
And with scarring alopecia, it's similar. Scar tissue begins to build in the follicle, and it creates a blockage. And there's no airway for oxygen, nutrition, and blood to get into the follicle. And then the scar tissue becomes, as we know, scar tissue is thick, and hair cannot grow through it. And literally scarring alopecia it literally burns out the follicle.
Wow.
And when that happens, that follicle can no longer produce hair. And we're thinking you have probably 100,000 follicles on your scalp at birth. And whatever you have at birth, that's what you're going to have for your life. But that happens in random follicles. So it doesn't happen all over at once. It happens in a random fashion. So in my thought process, because every strand has a lifespan, you know, we shed our hair when new hair is coming in. It pushes the old strand out. And hair has 3 phases of life: the growing phase, the resting phase, the you know, when it's going through all the anagen, the telogen, and the catagen, all those things are happening. So in the lifespan of a strand that's going to be affected by scarring alopecia, at some point it burns that follicle out and no hair can grow in that particular follicle anymore. The problem is it doesn't just stop with one. It sporadically impacts individuals, and it's really troublesome because we always like to think that there are things that we could do to help the hair to regrow, but that's one of the ones that it's important to keep the inflammation managed as much as possible, again, because once you're managing the inflammation, you're maintaining it, you're slowing down the process. You're not just allowing it to just be a runaway train where it's progressively damaging and burning out follicles and creating baldness in the individual.
Okay.
But as I know, to date, there is not anything that is recommended or that is proven to regrow hair where that impact has fully taken its place.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for your question. I mean, I hope that was helpful. And, you know, definitely I would say, you know, make sure, you know, whoever is experiencing that is working with a medical professional to make sure that they're getting, you know, the best diagnosis and the best treatment. To, you know, like you say, keep the inflammation down. And I'm sure it's body wise, not just hair and scalp wise. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So talk to us. I'm going to try to get some of the comments up a little bit later, but talk to us about this cool light laser and how it works. And, you know, what does that even mean? Because I'm like, a laser, what?
Okay. You know, I actually have a cap here that I can show you. Can I take 1 second?
Oh, sure.
I'll let you.
Yeah. So it's like we have Miss Barbara Edmonds in the house. So Healthy Scalp, we treat hair, not scalp. That's the beginning. And so we need to be treating all of it. So thank you so much. And it's like I see Ron Walker. Hello, Mickey, Barbara, and guest. It's so good to see you guys. And Thomas St. Jacques. Hello, Mickey and guest. And we've got Facebook user here, which sounds like I might have to wait till you get back, though. So I won't read that quite yet. So I'll go back. McBride here. Danielle is in the house. Hello, Mickey and Jackie from Connecticut. Excited to be on. Thank you so much for joining us. We just had a great time last week. And Jackie Clark Morris, I am a witness. Jackie has worked wonders with my hair. So thank you for that testimony. And let's see. Teresa Hill says, hey, can I have a replay of this? And if so, I can email you later with questions. Jackie speaking so clearly on the topic that really gives you better understandings. Yes, absolutely. We will put her contact information below when we finish this. So it'll be streaming on here, as well as I'll put it in the notes, as well as all of the replays can be found for any of the Beauty Superstars Talk interviews on my YouTube station, which is YouTube/Mickey Wright. And Mickey just has 1K. just MIKIWRIGHT, or you can go to beautysuperstars.com and you can actually sign up to be notified for each time that we have a guest, which is usually once a week, sometimes twice a week. And you can actually watch the replay on there, as well as listen to our podcast, which we're trying to get some of these newer ones onto the podcast, but there's some really good stuff that's already on there. And Lewis Richard says, I appreciate you both. Here's a Facebook user. And it's like, if you are on Facebook and want to put your name in, it's like at the bottom of this message, it'll say that you can give StreamYard permission to show your name. And you don't have to do that, but just to let you know, you're doing a beautiful job. And then Amina, in response to what you shared, said, wow. And let's see, Teresa Hill says she's seeing more COVID-19. Any suggestions? And then I have one that I have to see here, that I have to show. And this is Facebook user, but I'm so excited for my daughter in the industry to let me know that my teachings were not in vain. That sounds like someone you might know. So absolutely. We are grateful for all of you guys being here and your interest and everything. Let's see, a little bit more here. I love Jackie Clark Moore says, I love to say this is her ministry. She has truly been anointed to pour into those who have hair issues, even those with healthy hair. So great. And looks like JD Richards is in the house. Hello, Jackie and Mickey. You guys are the best. So are you, JD. Love you.
Love you, JD.
And so go ahead and show us, how this whole thing works. And probably shouldn't be scared of it.
Yes, don't be afraid. So Cool Light Laser is a part of the treatment plans that I have been doing since I opened in 2007. Okay. And over that time, which I cannot believe it has been that long, I have really continued to see success. And again, as I mentioned before, I like to take a layered approach. So layered meaning oral, we're looking at the whole body, because the hair is definitely impacting and having and getting the response from what's happening within the body. When I learned about the laser, I was so intrigued. I'm sort of a gadget person. And I have a bunch of gadgets that I don't even know why I bought half of them, but at the end of the day, this turned out to be one that was good. This one was a good one. And Cool Light Laser is an FDA approved method of regrowing hair. And in my salon and office space, I have a big machine that people sit under, and the light shines on their scalp, and they come in, and for the first maybe 10 years, that was the way that I treated people. They had to come in for treatments. And then they created the laser cap, which started off being super expensive. It's not cheap now, but it's still not at the cost that it initially was. Initially, it was too expensive for the average person to be able to afford.
Right.
But the beauty of it now is that my manufacturer is the same manufacturer that I started off with my big in-office laser. So having that relationship really helped me to pass some great savings on to clients who wanted to do home care. So Cool Light Laser is a low calibration of laser light that stimulates the blood circulation, and it promotes cell turnover. When cells turn over and the body heals itself, it creates the perfect environment for hair to regrow. And the beauty of that situation then becomes, this is a stimulating process that a person can experience at home for 3 days a week. So what I recommend to my clients, use your cap every other day for 30 minutes. And now I'm about to show you what a cap looks like.
Okay.
This is a laser cap.
Oh, wow.
So as
Okay.
you can see, it's on and it's in working form. And the person puts the cap on the head and it stimulates the blood circulation to the scalp. And they wear this at home in the privacy of their home. They don't have to travel. They don't have to come in. They don't have to go anywhere. They just wear their cap 3 days a week. They have a battery pack that clips onto their hip. They can move around the house. They can watch TV. They can check emails. They can do social media. They can do whatever they like. I typically recommend my clients to use this at night because it sets up the perfect environment during the sleep time to get that healing process, really take it to the next level. So this beeps every 10 minutes to let you know where you are in your treatment process. It doesn't get hot, it's not uncomfortable. And I have men as well as women that use these caps. So when you want to camouflage your cap, then you just put a little cap over top.
Okay.
And no one knows that you're receiving a treatment.
Wow.
They just see you with a cap on.
Right.
And they don't know what's happening.
That is wild. Okay.
So this has really been awesome for me in my practice, because now people don't have to come out. They can do this in the privacy of their own home. So they come in, they start with their consultation. I recommend the desired products that are going to be needed, a purifying shampoo to keep the scalp and the hair cleansed, to clean the palate and make it ready for treatment. I have some deep conditioning, keratin building, deep conditioners that they use to keep the strength in the shaft of the hair. I have a supplement that supports all of the things that we talked about, the nutritional support that you need. So you're carrying oxygen, nutrition, and blood into those follicles with the stimulation of getting more blood circulating to your scalp. And then I either will recommend a more organic and natural topical. Some for them, Rogaine maybe, or a minoxidil may be a better choice because they may be a little bit more advanced, or they have more of a genetic thinning, male or female. So they have their regimen for that. And so they have treatment at every layer. We're supporting them nutritionally. We're keeping perfect, good scalp hygiene. We're building the shaft of the hair. We're stimulating the blood circulation. We're creating antibacterial, antifungal, everything that is needed to create the perfect environment for hair to grow. The thing of it is, no one has come up with a way to look at follicles and determine which one is going to reproduce hair. So what we have to do, it's like, you know, they say with the spaghetti, you throw the macaroni against the wall and see what sticks.
Right.
When you have a total plan and clients come in for regular follow-ups, if we need to tweak the system a little bit, we do. But these are not the only things that can be done. I want to also let people know that aside from the treatments that can be done, there are other things that your dermatologist and some of the restorative doctors can do. So PRP therapy, which is plasma replacement, is also being used to stimulate and regrow hair. I have several clients that have gone to doctors where they will draw your blood, they separate the plasma, they then re-inject that back into your scalp, and it literally sets up a life in those follicles, and the hair can regrow. Now, there's no guarantee, but I have seen some really good results. And typically this is after people have really gone through certain layers of treatment. We've gotten results, but they want more. And because hair has this lifespan, once you go past 3, 4, 5 years of not having hair growing in that follicle, you're going to need something much more drastic to stimulate, to get that hair growing again. So oftentimes the dermatologist can even give the steroid shots in the scalp, and that sort of jump starts the hair to regrow again. But again, that has to be limited. You cannot continuously use the steroids on the scalp. You have to use it for a while and you have to stop.
Okay.
The PRP, I have actually 2 clients right now that have had very good results. One has had great results in her edges, her hairline area, and another one who has a family trait very strong for genetic predisposition for thinning. Her crown has grown in along with the treatments that I'm doing, and she had PRP in December, and she's looking good, and she's loving it. So what gets me excited is I don't try to be all things, I know I stay in my lane, but I'm the one that's guiding you through. It's like I become sort of the catalyst in the middle, and I'm able to show you, aside from what I can do, how you can get help over here, how we can examine this possibility. Because, there are some people out there that are doing some unsavory things. There are some, even with dermatologists, they don't all focus on hair loss. So they may have some general things that they are selling to people that may not be as helpful as you would have it to be. But I'm here to tell you that there are things, if you're consistent and if you really get knowledgeable about how this thing works, there are some real treatment regimens that can really help hair to be regained. But you have to know up front. That's why that first consultation is important. Everyone cannot be helped. So that's the other thing. You can't come to me with a completely bald head and you haven't had hair in that area for 10 or more years. I'm going to be honest with you. There is not a lot that I can do for you, because there is hair restoration from a surgical perspective. So that's at the top of the echelon. It's the most expensive of the many things that we've talked about today. But you have to have a donor area where they can take hair, which would be right underneath the circular area of right under the occipital. That's where they look for your donor area. If your donor area is good, then that makes you a better candidate. So, you want to go to someone reputable, someone where results have been gotten, where you can see people who look like you, have hair like you, that have results. A lot of times with this hair restoration surgeries, I have seen more men have good results than women. And in a discussion, a roundtable where I was fortunate enough to participate in, we sort of came up with the idea that it's the fluctuation in the woman's hormones that sometimes that's the only differing factor. And
Okay.
estrogen is a huge driver around what happens with the hair growth, and the hair loss. That maybe that was part of the process. And the doctors tended to agree because they said women who have gone through menopause tend to have better results than women who have not. So it's those hormonal fluctuations. It's like I feel so blessed to have access to this type of knowledge, or to individuals who are doing this kind of work.
Right.
But I'm right in there listening, I'm ear hustling. I'm trying to see what I can learn so I can take that back and help my clients.
Absolutely.
Because, if there's a way to help them, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well, you are doing amazing things, and we so appreciate everything that you shared tonight. And so tell us where we can stay in touch with you, because we already have people asking.
Yes. Hair Trauma Center, it's in Chicago, and you can email me at hairtraumadr. So hairtraumadr@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram, Hair Trauma Center, and on Facebook, the Hair Trauma Center.
Okay. So if I can just type today here would be good. And you said, is that Hair Trauma Center for Instagram and for?
Yes, and for Facebook. Yes.
Okay. So I'm trying to get this up for everyone. Center. Okay. I hope that I got it correct. So she's at Hair Trauma Center in Chicago, Illinois, and it's Hair Trauma Center, Hair Trauma DR @gmail.com for the address.
Correct.
And at Hair Trauma Center for Instagram and for Facebook. So you can message her there, you can email her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have one last comment I want to just share, and we'll call it a night. But this has been fantastic.
Okay, great.
So much. It's like you're a wealth of information. And let's see. Amina, I Am My Brand says this has been so enlightening. Excellent. So
thank you. Thank you for participating. And Mickey, thank you for bringing me into this forum where this information can be shared. When I first had the vision, and it literally was a vision of creating the Hair Trauma Center, my goal was to connect with other beauty professionals and to spread information to consumers so that they would just be more knowledgeable about what to do, the do's and the don'ts. There's so many things that people say to me, oh my gosh, if I had only known, where were you then? If I had only known, I would not be in the situation that I am now with the amount of hair loss that I have, because I did not know. And that's the thing. So many times people do not know. Mickey, you and I were talking, and we shared, if you told a person that if you get this hairstyle, this is going to happen to you, just know that thing, what would you say to your younger self type situation? Oh, yes. You would definitely change your behavior. And I'm a firm believer, if you knew better, you would do better.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to share it. I'm always open to share. There's no information that I'm stingy with. I think sometimes my clients want me to be quiet while they're sitting in the chair. They want to take a nap, and I'm just and I'm just pouring into them, because you have a sister, you have a daughter, you have a granddaughter, and you're hearing what I'm saying today. You might share it with them, and it could help them as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I hope, each person listening, whether you're, here live with us, which we truly appreciate, or whether you're watching the replay, tag somebody in this, share the link, share someone for, that who could use this information, because there's so many, there's I don't know how many millions or billions of hairstylists that there are around the country and the world. And, and consumers, I've heard anywhere from 6 million women to something over 30 million women just in this country who are experiencing hair loss. And so if you know someone who could benefit from this information, please, don't be stingy, as she said, and just,
share.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with traction alopecia, because it's something that's preventable and it's something that we can actually literally do something about. The fact that our numbers are 6 out of 10, every 6 out of 10 women of African-American descent have some level of traction alopecia. That number is not acceptable. We can stop this. For generations to come, we have to be more proactive. We just have to find better ways of improving our appearances. And most of the time, people just don't know. They just don't know.
Right.
That's all. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're so grateful that you're here and that you're sharing. So we do know now, and we can share with others and help them know. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
And definitely you guys reach out to Jackie with your questions. It's like I see one more comment I want to throw up there. Ratasha, pronouncing your name correctly, but thank you for this amazing platform, Miss Mickey. This wealth of information is awesome to help those who trust us. Miss Jackie, thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for staying with us and listening.
Yeah.
Listening is a lost art.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yes, you guys are hanging in there. Yes. And we did go over, so I want to apologize for that, just because I appreciate your time and being here with us. But it's like I don't want to apologize, because it's like this information is so valuable that I'm just grateful that Jackie is willing to be with us and to share.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime I can be of help. That's it has to flow through me into someone else, and that's how we are going to make this thing better.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, of course, I want to invite you guys back. We are continuing this conversation with hair loss. It's like we'll be back next week with Kai Smith. She is another amazing expert in the area of hair loss, and you will love her. It's like she's actually doing a lot of partnerships and training with or for dermatologists to be better equipped to be able to help us, because we do need partnerships as hairstylists. And we do need to know who to go to as far as hairstylists and as consumers, people who can actually help us. Because like she said, not everyone specializes in hair loss. And then being a Black female is a whole nother subcategory of, because it's definitely things that we're not likely to do, because it's going to mess up our, like you say, our styling practices.
Right.
So definitely feel free to follow me on Instagram. I'm doing hair loss tips each week. I'm going to get some from Jackie as well to share with you. And for any of the previous Beauty Superstars talk, or if you came in late to this one, you can watch them on beautysuperstars.com, which is my website. You can actually sign up there so that you don't miss any of the future ones. We'll notify you before we go on. And also, you can listen to the podcast, which we're behind on getting the newer ones in there, but there's some really great episodes that are already on there. So you can listen on the website, or you can catch it on YouTube on my channel, which is Mickey Wright. That's MIKIWRIGHT. Or for the podcast on Apple, Spotify, all of the different platforms for your favorite podcast. And if you would like to partner with us, you can feel free to visit beautysuperstars.com. And there's a big red button that just says partner with us. And it's like, we appreciate your support as we just, keep this movement going forward. And it's like, while you're there, get my free download for the suites, the Salon Suites Success Guide. It's a free situation there where you can just download it. It's 5 things that you need to know before you open your salon suite. And it's actually perfect, even if you're already in a salon suite, to say, wait a minute, okay, I got this one, I got that one, but wait a minute, I don't have this one. So check it out, and let me know what you think about it, because I've been getting some really great feedback. And again, want to thank our sponsor, Black Beauty Expo. The Black Beauty Expo will be held in Atlanta, Georgia, August 1st. I'm super excited to be part of that as the Global Education Director. So we're almost finalizing all of our education, but if you are interested, to please feel free to reach out to me. You can message me and we can talk from there. And also, I mentioned earlier, May, we're going to have a huge month, and it really is revisiting the diversity situation in the beauty industry and seeing where are we a year later, after George Floyd's unfortunate murder and the conviction that came down tonight for Derek Chauvin, the former police officer. And so it will be a lot. It will be emotional. It's like we have 7 interviews planned with very, very dynamic people who have lots of boots on the ground kind of experience in our industry and how we're doing. It's like, have we made some major progress since last year? Are we lagging behind? Are there things that we've done well and things that we need to look at doing better as we move forward? Mm-hmm. So we'll be bringing it, and invite some friends to come and join us. So that's all the month of May, 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday evenings, and then we'll have a couple that are on Thursdays and one that's on Wednesday. So it will be a jam-packed month. So
awesome.
Yeah, come and join us. So thank you again, Jackie.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
This is just wonderful. And thank you everybody who's joined us, live or on the replay. We really, really appreciate you. So we will see you next week. So take good care.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.